You were just mentioning beforehand feeling super uncomfortable back many, many years ago. Can you explain some of that to us? Because that's interesting, like to look at yourself in the mirror and to not be happy with yourself. But now I also think that you're happier
much
nowadays.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, it stems all the way back from being a young child. By the time I was 4 or 5 years old, I already knew I had issues with my gender. I didn't know, back then there was no internet, there was no social media. I didn't know that anyone else in the world was like me. And I didn't know exactly what it meant.
That's really interesting to hear because, like, I think a lot of little kids think that. Like, when you're a little kid, you kind of think there's, like, no one else has my same fears or my same things. But, what you are harboring is different.
Yeah. Like, I felt totally alone with it. And I also knew, what's interesting is even at that really young age, I already knew it wasn't okay to tell people. I couldn't tell my mom and dad. I knew if I did, they weren't going to react well. And I didn't even really know what it meant.
Did you have siblings also?
Yes, 2 younger brothers.
2 younger brothers.
Yeah, and the one was only 18 months younger than me, so we were pretty close growing up. And and then as adults, like, it's funny that we've had many conversations. He's like, gosh, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I didn't think you'd understand, and I didn't even know how to explain it. And I thought, if I told you or you found out, you would rat me out to mom and dad, and this was going to be really bad. I'd end up in shock therapy or who knows what. And but yeah, I already knew at that young of age that what was expected of boys and what was expected of girls. And the funny thing was, it wasn't like, oh, I want to play with dolls or I want to, do this stuff. But it was just that I was daydreaming about being a little girl. Like, I would see myself doing the same things I was already doing, playing baseball, climbing trees. But I would picture myself as this little tomboy with like a ponytail. And I didn't know why. I'm like, why do I keep thinking about this all the time? And there was a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. But obviously I had a lot of, due to this, I had a lot of body image issues. And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. So like, as I moved into my teenage years, like I was explaining to you just a little bit ago, I would look into the mirror and I had accepted that I was very unattractive. I thought I was very ugly. Like, I would look at my face and it was mainly like, I didn't realize it, but it was mainly like the masculine attributes. Like, my jaw was getting broader and my big nose.
Turned into a man. Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm just like, God, I'm so ugly. Like, this looks terrible. And I told myself, well, hey, no one's gonna be interested in dating you. Just focus on sports and school. Don't even worry about that. Like,
so you can bring up a couple pictures, Andrew.
Also, I know this, but at the time, did you want to date women or did you like?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So people, that's one thing too. People think that being trans or having gender issues has to do with sexuality. And it can. I mean, there are people that are trans and always interested in guys. And a lot of times they may identify as gay first and then realize it's more than that. But they're actually independent of each other. And for me, I've always been attracted to women. I still am. I would say, to be 100% honest, and at this point in my life, like, I have no problems talking openly about anything.
Yeah.
I have gone on dates with a few guys and it really hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
I just don't find them attractive. Not in the same way I do women. Being in the female role in the relationship. I mean, these never got as far as being in a relationship, but that part of it comes very naturally. So like, being on a date with a guy felt very comfortable as far as like, oh, wow, I can just be me. And this feels very normal. Whereas like early on dating women, actually throughout most of my life, trying to play that masculine role, like, even though I was very attracted to the women, I really had to be aware of what I was doing and try to like, okay, what does she expect now? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to react to this?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of difficulty with that early on. And especially because athletically, I was always, hyper competitive and what people considered very alpha. And, I was very aggressive and competitive and trained really hard. And, so girls would see this in a competition setting and then think that I'm going to be the same way in a relationship, that I'm going to be this very, alpha male. We're going to get to the bedroom and I'm going to be like this super aggressive person.
Yeah.
And that's not who I was at all. And so I would get in those situations and just not even know how to act. Everything felt super uncomfortable and filled me with anxiety and made it really difficult. But my orientation has always been much more attracted to women.
Okay.
In these pictures that we're looking at when you were Matt, were you unhappy at that point, or?
I mean, I focused on, there were the things that were going well in my life. Now
you were kind of doing a lot.
Yeah, I was always.
You were starting a family. You're breaking world records, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I loved competing. I always loved athletics, and that's where I was able to basically hide growing up, was in sports. That's where I was perceived as normal, and the things I liked to do and enjoyed doing were accepted by everybody. So that's where I was able to hide and fit in as just a normal kid, a normal boy.
Power Project fam, this episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot Shoes. We've been wearing these shoes for almost a year now. They're flexible. They have a wide toe box. They allow your feet to get connected to the ground, and they will make your feet stronger, and they don't look like shit like a lot of these other barefoot shoes. Andrew, how can they get them?
For the best barefoot shoes on the planet, and they also look really, really good, head over to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject20 to save 20% off. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, promo code PowerProject20 to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's go ahead and get back to this podcast.
But outside of that, it was very difficult for me. But that's that whole world. So but I was able to enjoy. Like, I loved competing, no matter what sport it was. In lifting, I was always fascinated by strength and muscularity, and so I was always drawn to that. So getting bigger and stronger was something I could take pride in. And now that caused additional issues with my body at certain points in my life. But I could take pride in what I was accomplishing, and I did enjoy those things. It was just there was always that disconnect with my gender and my identity, and that was the really difficult part.
There's that famous row right there.
Oh yeah, that's the homemade dumbbell.
You did a one-arm dumbbell row with how much weight?
That right there is 310.
You said you did that for 13 reps.
Yeah, 300 for 13 was my PR.
That don't make no sense.
Yeah.
Janae, I'm curious about this because, like, as you were growing up, you always felt that you weren't in the right body, correct? Now, as you continue to develop athletically, you were super competitive. You were gaining muscle. Did a part of masculinizing? Did that feel off or wrong because it is it's masculine?
Yeah. Well, I think actually that's a good point. I think that's actually a common misconception, right? That muscle equals masculine.
Yeah.
Because there are. I mean, I'm sure a lot of women that love lifting, love strength training, and like being muscular too.
And a lot of the comments you'll see, like especially stupid guys, are like, "Oh, you look like a man."
Exactly.
Just because they're a muscular woman.
Yeah. So does that mean every skinny guy looks like a woman? So yeah. So that's a really good point. And I honestly, I believe as a society, we've been conditioned to believe that, like, men are supposed to be the strong one, the protector, the provider, and all those things. And for some people, they are naturally, and that's totally fine. But not everyone is that way. And not every woman obviously needs to be taken care of or even wants those things. And they're very capable of taking care of themselves. And a lot of women love being strong and love being accomplished and doing all those things. And I think that's not a matter of what's right or wrong. It's what feels comfortable to that person. And like I said, there's a lot of women that are passionate about strength training and love gaining muscle. And for me, the first people that I ever talked to that really understood a lot of my struggles were the women in the strength training world. So when I came out, I had known a lot of these girls just from competing in the same competitions and being around them, but I wasn't close to any of them. And then after I came out, a lot of them reached out to me and were very supportive, which I was very thankful for, because I was also worried that they were going to see me as like an imposter or somebody encroaching on their territory and feel threatened by that. But it was exactly the opposite. Almost all the girls were very welcoming, and were very supportive.
Why did
and
you
still
feel
are.
that way, by the way?
Why did I feel that way?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, I didn't know how. And I just thought they were going to see me. Actually, it was the men that saw me as like this big threat to women's sports and all this stuff, even though I've never competed as in a women's division in any type of strength or any competition and have no plans to. And that's probably something we should get into as well, why I've decided to do that. But But yeah, so I just thought like, and a lot of the men spoke out right away, oh God, if you do a competition, that'd be so blah, 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 and all this. But it was never the women that said that. It was never, I had some of the strongest female powerlifters reach out and said, I would love to compete against you. I really hope you do compete. And I guess like I can explain why I chose not to do that. And it's two main reasons. One, because I would never want to do anything that would harm the sports or the trans community. And I think like there'd be nothing, the people that are anti-trans would love nothing more than for someone like me to compete. And especially if I had success, boy, plaster my photo everywhere and say, this is why trans athletes need to be banned from everything. You
have powerlifting records as a male,
right? And
you are now competing in jiu-jitsu, and you're choosing to compete in jiu-jitsu with other men, right?
Correct. Yep, in the men's division. Yeah, and it was kind of funny actually because all my documents have been changed. So my birth certificate says female, my driver's license says female, everything says female. And obviously I feel much better and I feel like that's much more accurate for me. But when it comes to competition, again, there's multiple reasons, but that's from Worlds. And, but the thing is, I mean, it's a complicated topic, right? It's not as simple as it's fair for everyone or it's unfair for everyone. And with me, so I was number one in the world as a male. So personally, plus I didn't start female hormones until I was into my 40s. And on top of that, I'd also done extra male hormones for quite a long time. And so I'm an anomaly. I am not like, I'm the exception, not the rule.
Keep following along, everybody. You're gonna find out that Janae was also a pharmacist.
Yes.
The plot will continue to thicken.
Yeah, I've managed to get my hands in a few things over the years, But yeah, so, like I said, I was number one in the world as a male. I didn't, begin taking female hormones until late in life. I had used, extra androgens for almost 2 decades. So there are a lot of factors why I don't feel that it's personally fair for me to be competing in the women's division.
Yeah.
And like I said, and the other thing is if I did and I had success, I'm going to be the poster child to get all trans athletes out of sports, which obviously I don't think is a good thing. It's not that simple of a discussion. And I think a lot of the effects female hormones have on a body are largely discounted. So there's a lot to
You mean when a man takes
there.
female hormones?
Yeah, like I was telling you guys a little earlier before we were on the air that just me having been exclusively on female hormones for 1 year, how much that impacted my performance. I mean, I lost almost 200 pounds off my bench press. All my lifts went way down. My muscle mass went way down. I lost explosiveness.
That's when you're like, wait a second, how bad do I want this?
Yeah, well, the thing is for me, like not only, obviously being feminine and identifying as a woman is a big part of who I am and what makes me feel comfortable in my own skin. But also so is being an athlete. I'm someone who's been an athlete from day one. I very much enjoy it. I love competition. I'm somebody that will be competing probably until the day I die.
Yeah.
And I've really grown to love jiu-jitsu. And so to give up athletics isn't an option either. And also doing something that hurts my performance so much has been really difficult for me. I think it's difficult for any athlete as you age and get older. And like we had mentioned earlier, I just turned 50. So dealing with a little bit of that, but still doing pretty well overall as far as like my age is concerned. But it's hard for any athlete when you've been especially at a really high level.
At the top.
Yeah. I mean, in powerlifting, my biggest goal was to be number one in the world all time in my weight class, regardless of federation or anything. And I finally accomplished that. But yeah, and just not being at that level anymore is difficult, let alone getting to a place where it's difficult to even see yourself as an athlete. And like I said, like being on exclusively female hormones, even for just 1 year, like impacted me so much that I was really struggling with it. And to this day, I'm still trying to find a balance with being able to compete as an athlete, but then also see the changes in my body that'll help me feel more comfortable. But yeah, hormones are a crazy thing and have a huge impact on our bodies and how we perform.
Hey, baby. I'm joking. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord, all right? I know you enjoyed the video. Speak to y'all soon.